Hello and welcome to the Fit Show. My name is Kim Oddo and we're here at Body by O's facility in Murrieta, California. I'm here with a very close personal friend of mine, IFBB Fitness Pro Laurie Vanniman, who has been a fitness pro since 1998. She is also an ISSA certified personal trainer, and she also does her personal training here at Body by O. We're here currently to do some segments for the Fit Show, and in which we're going to speak to you about training and help expand your knowledge on training. Today's segment will start off with legs, and we will break your leg segment down over 3 or 4 episodes. So today we'd like to start off with leg conditioning, and we'll also do some glute work. So in just a moment, we'll begin with your leg conditioning exercises. What we're going to do is we're going to start off by showing you 2 stretching exercises. I always like to recommend to my clientele, before you start any leg exercise or any leg routines, I like to recommend with at least 2 to 3 stretching exercises to properly stretch and warm up your glutes, your hamstrings, your quadriceps, and your hips. Today, Laurie will demonstrate one of the first exercises, and what we'll do is we'll start off with a bench stretch by placing her foot on the bench, keeping her leg straight, keeping her hips locked. She will stretch down, lean forward, and stretch toward her toes. By doing this, you stretch all of the back of the hamstrings, you keep the hips flexible, and you stretch through the quadriceps. So Laurie will go ahead and explain to you in a little bit more detail from her vantage point of how she's exactly stretching and what she's trying to feel when she's actually doing the exercise.
The most important thing is that you're only stretching to your own flexibility. You want to bend down only to where you begin to feel the stretch, slowly sinking into the stretch. Again, depending on your flexibility will depend on how deep you need to stretch. And it's also important to hold each stretch for about 12 seconds to fully lengthen that muscle.
Now we'll go into our second stretch. And for our second stretch, we're going to do a quadricep stretch. So we'll move the bench out the way. We're going to place one leg forward, and we're going to do a hip and a quadricep stretch. So while Laurie has her knee planted straight down, so you never want the patella of the knee to go over the toe, so as not to put too much stress on the patella. You keep your back leg so that it stretches the hamstring but doesn't put undue pressure on the hips. You stretch downward so it stretches through the quadricep, and then as you come down, you hold it for maybe a 2 to 3 second count, and then you ease back up again. And then you go down, and once again, I'll let Laurie explain to you what she's feeling and how her body is feeling as she's doing her stretching.
Again, you're only stretching to your own flexibility. You're also going to feel this in the hip flexor right here into the front quad. Depending on your flexibility, at some point you may need to come all the way to the floor, very gently stretching. If you're not very flexible, again, you're keeping it right here. Again, never letting that knee go over that toe.
Okay, so there's 2 tips on our stretching just to make sure that your legs, and again, we went through the hamstrings, the hips, the quadriceps. That's a good start for you to warm up your legs, make sure you don't pull any muscles, and now you can move into your leg exercises and feel pretty comfortable that you're not going to hurt yourself or you're not going to pull any muscles. If anything ever stops you during training, it's always going to be injuries. You want to always be very, very cautious to never get injuries. It's really the #1 thing that will knock you out for an expanded length of time, and that becomes the deterrent that you want to stay away from. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start our quads, or we're going to start our leg series out with conditioning exercises. So what I mean by conditioning exercises, these are exercises that we design for female clientele or female athletes who are not specifically wanting to add size to their legs, but they're wanting to condition and shape and tone their legs. So there's a little difference there between doing quadricep work and conditioning and toning work. These exercises are made to tone and condition the legs. So it's things that help elongate and lengthen the muscle, and things that dig a little bit more into the aerobic than the anaerobic portion of the leg training. So what we're going to do today is pick maybe 4 or 5 exercises that we can show you to give you a little bit of variety and give you a little bit of different perspective on some different exercises that might help you with toning and conditioning your legs. Okay, today we're going to start off with our first exercise being step-ups. Whenever you're doing step-ups, you want to choose a bench or a set of boxes or a step that fits your specific needs. Everyone comes into the field of exercise with a different degree of expertise and a different level of expertise. So if you're a beginner, naturally, you want those boxes to be a lot lower. If you're a moderate or an intermediate, then you want your boxes to be a mid-level. If you're an advanced, as Laurie is, then you can bring your bench up to a higher level where your knee and your leg line is slightly higher than level to or parallel to the floor. So that way you know that your body and what you're doing with your legs fits where you're beginning, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced level athlete. So what Laurie's going to do is keeping her foot flat on the floor, keeping this foot flat on the bench, she's going to step up and step back down. 2 things that you want to be careful of. Number 1, the bottom foot is not used as a kangaroo foot. I call it a kangaroo foot because some people come down and they spring back up. You don't want to spring your legs up and down. When you come down, you want to set your foot down, hold it for about a 1 second count, and then come back up. You have 2 ways to perform leg step-ups. One way being a little bit more glute and hamstring oriented along with the quadricep. The other way, a little bit more hip and quadricep by doing a pull-through. The first way we'll show you today is for glute and hamstring. So when you step up, you're going to step up, squeeze back, bring back, and step down. And once again, I'll let Laurie kind of go through her movements with you, explain to you where she's feeling the exercise, and from her viewpoint, what she's focusing on while she's stepping up and stepping down.
As Kim mentioned, one of the things that's very important is to make sure that heel's all the way on the bench for 2 reasons. Number 1, preventing injury. If that heel's hanging off the bench, you create an injury possibility in that calf or the back of the leg. The other thing is you want to be pushing through that heel. Pushing through that heel is going to enable the glute to be doing the work. The other thing is for balance. Core is tight, abs are tight. If you're losing your balance, it's probably for 2 reasons. Number 1, you may need to find a spot on the wall to concentrate on to keep your balance. Second is core needs to be tight. That's your balance. So I'll demonstrate what Kim just mentioned, the one with the kickback that helps the glute and the hamstring, as well as the front glute when you step up. This one's a little bit more advanced. If you were not going to do something quite as advanced, you may start, like Kim mentioned, on a smaller step, or start by tapping up and tapping down before you then move into that rear glute squeeze from the step up.
Okay. Now, as the second exercise on this same exercise, we're going to step through. So we're going to use a little bit more hip flexor, hip, and quadricep pull through. This is a little bit more of a dynamic exercise because you have a pull-through motion. Again, as you're stepping up, be very careful. Do not spring off the bottom. When you're pulling through, do not throw your hips up as you'll throw the core stability of your body off balance and you'll lose your balance and come down. So as you pull up, step through, hold it for just 1 second, step back down. That way you're controlling your range of motion from start to finish. Everything with exercise is a controlled range of motion. You want to always make sure that every exercise you do, you're controlling the range of motion from start to finish in a very consistent, very smooth manner of a rhythm. Okay, Laurie?
Okay.
Very good. Now, that concludes step-ups as being our first of our conditioning exercises. Our next exercise is going to be a dynamic side lunge. Anytime you're trying to condition your legs, of course you want to pay attention to the abductors and abductors. anytime you do any adductor and abductor exercises, once again, please be sure to get your proper stretching in. So as we showed you in the first exercise, please stretch well, maybe 5 to 10 minutes before you do any leg exercises, and then you're ready to go into your actual leg exercise. What we're going to do today is we're using a slant board, and the slant board enables you to get a little bit better footing and control the range of depth that you choose to go down on your side lunge. A more advanced client may not use the slant board. They may just step on the side, go flat to the floor, and come up. A beginning clientele may tend to want to use a slant board so that you don't have to go quite down so far. You can control the range of motion and control how far you're stretching. Anytime you do any adductor or abductor stretching, please be careful of how far you're bringing your knees down. You want to always stay in the range of motion that your body can handle. Do not overstretch. If you overstretch, you stand a chance of pulling a groin muscle or pulling a hamstring or quadricep muscle. So please be sure that you control your range of motion so that you don't overstretch. What we're going to do today is we're going to start off using the slant board. Laurie will start from a standing position. She will lunge out sideways, placing her foot, keeping her feet parallel, coming down. Knee stays parallel. Again, the knee does not go over the toe. Her hips stay straight. Her body core stability stays straight. She stretches down and presses back up. The dynamic part of it is the pressing back up. Okay? I see a lot of people sometimes using heavy weights. I do not recommend using heavy weights doing side lunging. There's too many body parts that could go awry. So ankles can be twisted, knees can be twisted, hamstrings can be pulled. So whenever you're doing a dynamic side lunging, if you want to use maybe a 2 or a 5 pound ankle weight so that you can control the range and use it to give a little bit of weight to your press back, that's fine. I don't recommend using dumbbells and sitting them because you're changing your body lines and you're changing the angle of your body. So once again, I'll let Laurie talk a little bit about what she's experienced, what she thinks about, and what she focuses on as she's going through her range of motion.
One of the main things I always focus on all leg exercises is pushing through that heel. Again, like I mentioned in the step-ups on the first exercise. So when you're stepping to the side, that foot is parallel, both feet are parallel. You're stepping to the side, feeling a nice stretch through the inner thigh so that you are, this is also working. As you push up, like Kim mentioned, I want you to explode through the heel, coming up, making sure to push through that heel to also use the glute.
Okay, now your lunging placement, all you do is take, and we're going to switch over to the other side. Make sure that if you're with a trainer, make sure you have a foot placed on the slant board so the board doesn't slide out. If you're not, please put it against a wall or something stable so that the board doesn't slide out from underneath you and you end up slipping and pulling an hamstring. And the range of motion and the movement is exactly the same for the right leg as it is the left leg. Normally when I have my clients do these, I'll have them do a certain amount of repetitions one side to the other. So 20 repetitions one side, 20 repetitions other. And then whenever you're doing single leg exercises, as this is a single leg, what you're basically doing is you're forcing one leg to interact as much as the other leg is. So if you tend to have a dominant side, which most individuals, we all have a dominant side and we have a weaker side, well, you're forcing your weaker side to interact and push as hard as your dominant side, therefore trying to balance out the stability of your body. So I like to use a lot of exercises in my toning and conditioning legs to try to get some leg balance in there by using independent leg exercises. And now Laurie will demonstrate the same exact range of motion and the same exact movement from the right side.
Another thing I just thought of while Kim was talking is, as he mentioned, the core being tight. Anytime you're doing an asymmetric exercise like a side lunge, you want to make sure that the back never rounds forward. You want to keep the abs tight. Don't use the back to push up. Exploding again through that heel. Make sure the glute and the legs are doing the work, not the back.
Now, whenever you're doing exercises that are conditioning range of motion exercises, and depending upon where you are and in what location and what facility you are, a lot of times here at Body by O, we're very lucky. We're in a very controlled atmosphere. It is my personal trainers and my clientele base. So the atmosphere is not a very distracting atmosphere. There's a lot of focus, and we spend a lot of time with helping our clientele to focus on what you're trying to feel and keeping your mind focused on your exact range of motion. Sometimes if you're in the larger facilities and you're in a larger gym, you have to be careful not to let yourself get distracted while you're doing a range of motion, a full range of motion exercise like this. Because if you take your eye or your mind off of your foot, you place it a little too high or a little too low, that's when an accident can occur or an injury can occur. So please, whenever you're doing any exercise, place your mind within the exercise of what you're doing. Focus on the feel of the exercise and focus to keep your range of motion very firm, very solid, and very consistent in your energy. What Laurie's going to show us today is she's going to show us how to properly do your form and function on a plie squat. What plie squats target is that, again, they target your adductors and your abductors. So they will, as you're going down and you're doing the concentric part of the motion, it will stretch the inner thighs. As you come up, it's going to push in through the outer hips. So what we're going to do today is, first of all, and again, I want to preface it by saying, please stretch 5 to 10 minutes before any leg exercise. And I know we talk about that a lot, but I can't overemphasize the importance of proper stretch to make sure you don't pull any muscles and get any injuries. What we're going to do is we're going to have Laurie demonstrate the foot positioning first. Within your plie squats, you have a lot of different foot positionings of your feet. Your feet can go anywhere from being on a 45-degree angle to a 60 to a 90-degree angle. Use a foot position that is comfortable with your knees. A lot of times people will over-accentuate, and I can't turn too far because I'm not very flexible because I haven't been doing enough of my stretches. But anytime you have a foot positioning, you don't want to put pressure on the ACL or the MCL. So please watch your knees. Don't overstretch, trying to overemphasize the foot position of the plie. So make sure you put your plie foot position at a comfortable place, just outside enough where it allows you to stretch the inner and outer thighs, but yet not put any kind of strain on your ACL or your MCL. So Laurie will now go ahead and give us the foot positioning, and she'll explain to you once again how she feels and what she's focusing on as she's getting into her plie position.
One of the most important things, and it's really awkward for people at first, is understanding the difference between a traditional squat and a plie. Is you need a little more room, and you're opening those toes out, as Kim mentioned, and to your own flexibility, as he mentioned. Even in dance growing up, even the dance teachers never could overemphasize enough the fact that you never want your knees to be buckling in, away from your toes. Meaning if your flexibility, if you turn them all the way out and your knees are not flexible, your hips are not flexible, this is a very dangerous position, as Kim mentioned. So very important, only to your own flexibility. So understand, I usually explain to people when I'm training clients, I am very flexible, so usually my turnout is quite a bit as a former dancer. That's where I'm comfortable, but only go to your own flexibility. So using a dumbbell, you're going to come straight down and squeeze all the way in. As Kim mentioned, to use your inner thighs coming up, and at the very top, you're using your outer thighs, hips, and glutes, squeezing them in. Also not overextending the knees in terms of, you don't even have to lock them. It's most important to be able to squeeze every muscle, not completely lock the knees. You never want to jam the knees up. So I'm always conscious to watch clients to make sure they're squeezing every muscle as hard as they can without overextending the knees.
And you're also controlling, once again, controlling your range of motion. As you're going down, do not stretch the legs down past parallel to the floor. Anything past this, you transfer everything into the knees. and then you put a different angle, you put a weird stress angle on your hips. So bring it down to parallel, hold it for a 1 second count, squeeze back up. And that way you're controlling your range of motion and you're controlling the angles at which you're allowing your body to go through the range of motion.
And once again, every time you're holding a heavy weight, keeping that core tight, never letting that back round forward. Good posture. Don't let the back do the work. Only legs are working. The weight is there for the legs, not for the back to lift.
And in regards to your weight, start off with a lighter weight. Always start off from a lighter position, and you can always increase your weights as you begin to see how a specific weight feels as far as how much pressure it's putting on the legs, the quadriceps, the hips. You can always go up, but if you start from too heavy of a place and then you try to come down, you'll start off without your legs being warm enough, an injury can occur. So always start off with a lighter weight. You don't have to do these with 80-pound dumbbells. You can stay in a very realistic realm and a very realistic place of starting off with maybe 15s or 20s and then go up from there depending upon how you feel it in your range of motion and with whatever specific reps. Normally, I like to recommend repetitions of anywhere from 15 to 25, and of course, depending upon the strength of your legs, your flexibility, the weight will coincide with that. So you may need 25 pounds in order to make the last 2 to 3 reps of your set start to be where you start to struggle just a little bit so that you start to strengthen that muscle up a little bit. And today's leg conditioning exercise will be ball squats. To start off, you have a lot of different sizes depending upon your range of expertise, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced. The size of the ball can go from small to medium to large. Of course, the larger the ball, the easier the range of motion will be. The smaller the ball, the harder the range of motion will be. Today we're going to be using a smaller ball. These are just stability balls. And what you're doing is you're placing the stability ball at the small of your back against a stable flat wall so that you're able to keep your range of motion down to parallel, back up. The reason that I like to recommend stability ball squats, a lot of times if you're a female athlete or a female clientele and you're not particularly looking to involve the abductors, or I'm sorry, the abdominals, that being your serratus, your lower abdominals, or the obliques. A lot of times when you're going low on a squat machine, a Smith machine, or a free bar, when you're coming from the bottom of the motion, you tend to use a little bit more of the abdominal muscles, which of course, the abdominals are just like any other muscle group. If you stimulate them via weights or through strenuous pressing, you can actually cause the abdominals and obliques to grow a little bit. So if by using stability balls and keeping your torso in control, keeping it stable, not going below parallel at the bottom, you can keep the abdominals and obliques and serratus out of the movement, keep the movement more isolated toward the quadriceps. What we're going to do today is we're going to show you 2 or 3 foot positions that you can do while you're actually doing your stability ball movements. The first movement that we're going to show you is feet together. Every foot position when you're doing ball squats or most other exercises, let's say a leg press for instance, your foot position targets a different portion of the quadriceps. So by keeping your feet positioned straight and together, you're drawing a little bit more through the center line of the quadriceps. By turning your toes slightly outward and bringing your feet out around shoulders width apart, now you're targeting a little bit more of the outer quadriceps, and at the bottom a little bit more of the inner quadriceps. If you were to go more of a plie angle and go out with your toes out, then of course you're going to stretch a lot more of the inner thighs. So today we're going to show you 2 foot positions. The first foot position we'll show you is feet in. Now anytime you're doing your your ball squats, what you're going to want to do is make sure that your knees come slightly almost to touching your toes. So when you go down, if you're leaning backwards and your knees are back here and your toes are out here, what happens is it tilts the body torso backwards. So you're actually pushing on an angle. Therefore, you're not using the full ability of the quadriceps. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide Laurie's feet back just a little bit. Now, once again, we'll do the same range of motion. Now it keeps her upper body square and it keeps it parallel to the ball, keeping all the work in through the quadriceps. Her legs are now parallel. She holds the bottom portion of the motion for a 1 second count, and then she squeezes back up. Be very careful. Any exercises that you're doing, be very careful to control your range of motion. Don't get into this rhythmic type of a motion where you're just coming up and down, up and down. You're springing your body. Well, what you're doing is you're taking the point of focus off of your quadriceps and you're placing it more into a rhythm where you're activating a little bit more of a group type of exercise. You're targeting group muscles. So what we want to do is keep the work in the quadriceps of the muscle. So what I'm going to do is, once again, we're going to allow Laurie to let us know what she focuses on, the feel of the range of motion for her, and how she controls her range of motion while doing the ball squat.
So one thing I notice when people first go to do this, a lot of my clients when they're new, they're a little nervous that they're going to hit the floor. Then when I say you're going to use the ball for your support, never has anybody actually hit the ground. So don't be worried about that. It just takes a few times to get used to. Again, low back on the ball. In this position, squeezing those inner thighs together, coming straight down. The other thing is never tilt the pelvis forward like that. That's another tendency I see when people start doing this. Keep those glutes tucked underneath. So like as Kim mentioned, your back is nice and straight, going straight down into those glutes, digging into those glutes, quads, and inner thighs in this position. Taking your time, like Kim mentioned, not using momentum. Another common tendency, using momentum makes it too easy. So take your time and think about the muscles that you're working.
Okay, now what we'll do is we'll bring the foot position out just a little bit, keeping our feet positioning back so that the knees are just almost to where they're touching the toes. Now she's going to turn her toes slightly outward, so she activates the outer quadricep muscles just a little bit more. And once again, it's the same range of motion. So we ease down, we pause for 1 second at the bottom, and then squeeze back up. Now, a lot of times when female clients or athletes are doing ball squats, it's necessary to add a little bit of weights in your hands because the body weight of the individual is not enough to give you a sufficient amount of resistance. So what you want to do is using a dumbbell, whether it's a hex head dumbbell or whatever you have available, you can hold dumbbells in your hands, be it 5, 8, 10s, 12s, or 20s. You want to use a weight that allows you to hit your rep range so that the last 2 to 3 reps of each set is going to be forced reps. So by holding your dumbbells straight at your hands, you'll allow yourself to come straight down to parallel, straight back up. It just adds resistance and it just makes the exercise a little bit tougher to do. Now, be careful, and we like to preach prevention just because we don't want to ever see anybody getting any injuries that causes you to lose valuable time in your training regime and what you're trying to accomplish with your goals, with your physique. Be careful not to get your feet back too far to the point where now when she goes down, her body lean is forward. Notice her upper body is starting to lean forward, and as she goes down, now all the stress is on the patella of the knee. And the patella of the knee, anytime you're walking in a downward slope, the patella of the knee is what is taking the majority of the pressure. And if the patella goes out, you're talking surgery. So we have to be very, very careful with that. So always make sure that you keep those knees parallel to the toes, if not slightly behind the toes. In conclusion of our leg conditioning exercises, what we'd like to do now is sort of summarize the 4 exercises that we've shown you so that you can kind of tie them up into a workout. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Number 1, you can take all 4 exercises, do them individualistically with 2, possibly 3 sets of each exercise. performing it with maybe 60 to 90 sets between each exercise or each set, so that you perform it in a traditional manner, doing 3 sets of the plie squats, 3 sets of step-ups, 3 sets of ball squats, and 3 sets of dynamic side lunging. Or you can do it in a circuit training format where you take one exercise of each, or one set of each exercise, run it in succession. So you do your step-ups first, go immediately to your ball squats, do your set of ball squats, then go immediately to your dynamic side lunge, do your set there, and then go immediately to your plie squat, and then catch your breath for maybe 60 to 90 seconds, and then run your circuit once again. So you have a couple of different methods that you can choose to kind of put your 4 exercises together to make your leg conditioning exercises. Laurie, I'd like to give you a chance to talk a little bit about what how you may like to recommend doing the exercises.
It really depends on your goal. My favorite way to train is the second that Kim mentioned. I like to train extremely fast-paced, back-to-back, hitting every muscle to failure, however, never letting my heart rate come down. It's been my favorite way to train, especially legs. I do have a tendency to put size on, so I like to train quickly and maintain that heart rate, and therefore achieving the best conditioning in my legs, keeping them tight.
So that will conclude our leg conditioning exercises. Please view in with us again, as we'd like to do more for the Fit Show and be able to show you some more exercises and tips from Kim Oddo. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Tune in next week for more leg conditioning exercises with Kim and Laurie. But now let's head off to the kitchen with David and Alexis and see what they've got cooking.
Welcome to another exciting episode of The Fit Show. I'm David Ellis.
I'm Alexis.
I'm Tanya Dover.
And we are Gourmet Fitness Food. Gourmet Fitness Food is a very unique food service. Basically what we do is prepare customized meals that are delivered to your door every single day.
Fresh food. It's cooked fresh, delivered to your door, no hassles, convenient. It's a great service. We've been in business for about 5 years.
So to get started, what I want to do today is introduce you to one of our very favorite dishes. It's called a Sicilian omelet. And basically what it is it's an egg whites with a whole egg and a lot of vegetables, and I'm not even going to go into it, but it's served with a side of oatmeal, and it's an apple banana oatmeal, and it's absolutely delicious. So without further ado, once again, welcome to the Fit Show, and let's get started. So let's get started with that Sicilian omelet. So why don't you grab some of the ingredients we're going to be needing.
We already cracked some of the eggs and we got started, since there's numerous ingredients in the Sicilian omelet. That's what makes it so tasty.
Now normally there won't be 3 of us in the kitchen. Normally it's this Tanya, our master chef, and believe it or not, it takes almost a full year to train one of our chefs to prepare healthy food. A chef, a culinary chef, isn't trained to cook healthy. They're trained to cook good. So when you go to your fancy restaurant or you go to your favorite diner, that's why it's so much of a problem getting healthy food, because they don't know how to cook healthy. Your doctors don't know how to cook healthy. Very few people know how to cook healthy, but everyone wants you to cook healthy. So we're actually going to show you how to make healthy food that actually tastes good.
So you could be a chef too.
Oh yeah.
Starting from right now, looking at our ingredients, what we have here are some fresh tomatoes. We have some fresh bell peppers, really nice and bright.
Now there's 3 different types. There's the yellow, the red, and sometimes we use the green. So
we have the orange in there as well.
Yeah, I think we have the orange instead of the green this time.
We have some red onion right here and some delicious chicken sausage, which is a really great addition to increase the protein of our meal here. We have some seasonings that are really tasty and add a lot of flavor, because just because something's healthy doesn't mean it has to be bland.
Now there's a reason why we have it all set up like this. It's so you can see each individual season, and spice, because it's very important, because we use everything for a particular reason. We go to just regular grocery stores, whether it be Stater Brothers, a Trader Joe's, a Costco, a Sam's Club. No matter where you are, you should be able to find these ingredients. So you shouldn't worry that I have some special delivery system that you can't get. You can get all of this. It's just regular garlic salt, which we use very little of, because most people want to keep their sodium intake low. Some people have high blood pressure. Some people have a lot of health issues, and you have to watch the amount of salt intake. So this is probably one other thing has a little bit of sodium in it. The other thing is the Laurie's. And it's very important which one you use. I use the black pepper because it has a lower sodium. Everything else doesn't have any salt. Regular black pepper, ground finely. We have garlic powder, not garlic salt. There's your garlic salt. And then we have a little bit of granulated onion powder. So I try to use a lot of powders so you can get the flavor without actually getting the high sodium. And then you can use all fresh vegetables.
And all these vegetables actually add flavor as well. So this is something that is kind of sprinkled on, but most of our flavor comes from things like basil, which is an incredible flavoring of a spice. And we use fresh basil, and then we use, as I said before, onions, and we have bell peppers and tomatoes. So this is called a Sicilian omelet, and then here we have a mixture of eggs and egg whites. And it is mainly egg whites, and what we do with that is that we want to increase, once again, the protein content. And you're gonna hear protein a lot, and bodybuilders love talking about protein, but the fact is that protein is very important. It is something that fuels our body, fuels our muscles, and everyone from the athlete to the regular person actually needs to have protein with every meal. So we're always trying to increase the protein of our meals, so we have an egg white and egg mixture here.
Now, a lot of times I get the question, how big should my portions be? What should my serving size be? How much protein do I need? If you look at Alexis and you look at Tanya, they're both about 5'8". They're very tall for women. In fact, she's one of the taller IFBB figure pros, which means in order for them to put on muscle, which most of you out there are interested in, because the only way you're gonna lean out, the only way you're gonna create a particular type of physique that you're killing yourself in the gym by lifting all that heavy weight or doing the high repetitions is getting enough protein to rebuild the muscle tissue that you're breaking down. This is where it's done. This is where all your hard work pays off. The kitchen, your food, is God. That is what you should be worshiping, in the sense that you're trying to achieve a particular goal. So it's very important that you pay close attention to what portions we're using. So
and also what you eat. I mean, back to food and protein. You know, it is about fresh food, honestly. You know, of course you can have protein shakes and protein bars, but I particularly believe that, you know, fresh food is the best way to go when it comes to actually fueling your body. So therefore, our food service, Gourmet Fitness Food, gives you fresh food. I know lots of us don't have the time, but we're gonna show you how easy it is to prepare these meals, and you can prepare them before, you know, you can prepare them in the morning, or you can prepare them early in the week and have them for all week. Regardless, it's something that is easy to do, and don't be intimidated. It's something very easy. You're watching it done right in front of you.
Now, this is probably, in terms of portion sizes, since we're talking portions, give an example. We're using them as an example. So if you're a man and you're 6'2" and you're a bodybuilder and you're shorter, it's all based on how much muscle tissue you have. So I weigh about 210 to 220, so the amount I have is going to be almost double than they have. So take that into consideration if you're a male. But for our women out there, what you're going to do is, if you look at this, you're just putting a sprinkling of everything in. If I had to measure it out, I would say half a teaspoon of the garlic salt. And that's for 2 people. Half a teaspoon of the Laurie's. This is a serving for 2 people. One person, normally, a woman, for 1 serving, she's gonna have 5 egg whites to 6 egg whites and 1 whole egg. That's the combination you're looking for. So if you're making it for 2 people, you're gonna have the equivalent of 10 egg whites. 5 egg whites is probably a half a cup if you go and you buy your egg whites, and you can do that. You can buy just 100% egg whites. So you're gonna take basically 2 cups, put them in a little bowl like this, a measuring bowl, get your whisker, add your 2 eggs, and then add your ingredients. Back to the ingredients. Pepper, teaspoon of pepper, your garlic powder, maybe half a teaspoon, and your onion powder, maybe a teaspoon. As you saw, she took probably a little fingerful of the basil, chopped it really fine. I actually have one of those choppers that I got actually from a county fair, and that works really good. I chop it up real small. Same with the onions. Look how the onions are cut. They're cut in these little bitty half moon, quarter moons, and you want them kind of big, and you'll find out why you want them cut like that.
Once again, you know, having all these things included in your eggs makes it fun, because eating healthy can be fun as well. So that's why we're including all these ingredients. It makes it tasty, it satisfies our taste buds, our eyes, with all the color, and all these things are fresh, which make it digest really easily, and it just sits really well in your system, which is very important, because after you eat, you want to feel good. And that's what this food does. It's something that fuels your body, makes you feel good, makes you feel satisfied because of the flavor and the lack of blandness. And more than anything, it helps you build muscle, which is what we're about, isn't it? So
if you look behind us, you'll see Tanya. Now what she did is, she took a skillet. She took a little bit of Pam. Everybody knows what Pam is. If you're a competitor, normally you're spraying this on your body. Okay, so as opposed to spraying it on your body, we're going to spray it in the skillet. So you take the Pam, I'll demonstrate in Tanya's little skillet, and she just sprays enough Pam before she puts it in so the vegetables don't stick. You can also take just regular old olive oil and add a little, maybe a tablespoon of olive oil in the skillet.
Of course, there we go with some good fat, which is something that we all need and we need to include in our diet. So we use olive oil. That's the only oil that we ever use.
Now Tanya, let them get a good look at exactly how that looks. She took the sausage, she took the peppers, she took the onions, sauteed it in the skillet, and it's all mixed together, and she's just kind of sauteing it. She's not adding any fatty butter, she's not adding any lard. It's just the olive oil or the Pam, and just sauteing it. Real simple. Okay, thanks, Tanya. So, as Alexis was saying,
well, we have, so that's our omelet, you know, that's our Sicilian omelet. And you could actually, you don't have to just make Sicilian omelets. You could make anything, any kind of vegetable you like, you can actually make an egg white omelet out of it. You know, start thinking about your mushrooms, your tomatoes, your broccoli, your spinach, whatever you like, include it in your omelet. That'll spice up your breakfast, that'll spice up your eggs, and give you some vegetables at the same time, which are high in fiber and high in vitamins as well.
And you can make a lot of variations on this. Now this has sausage in it. Now we go to Trader Joe's and we get the chicken and turkey sausage. Not everybody's gonna want this. Some people really don't want anything that has the word sausage in it, especially if you're pre-contest. Everything else is fine. You would just take the sausage out and just use the vegetables. Maybe not add any of the garlic salt, maybe not add any of the Laurie salt. Your sodium would be as low as you can get it. That would be something that you could have for breakfast, especially when I show you the oatmeal. The oatmeal, our oatmeal, no one comes close. It's famous. We've dealt with A-list actors. We'll talk about some of the people who've actually used our food service. We have pro football players, pro baseball players, we have actors and actresses, bodybuilders, fitness competitors, figure competitors. We've dealt with a lot of different people, as well as soccer moms and just the average person who wants to lose weight or who doesn't want to lose weight and just wants to maintain a particular look. You can do anything you want to do if you watch what you eat and you actually start really paying attention to what goes in your mouth. Now, you wouldn't know this about Alexis, but when I met her, she didn't always look like this. One of the funniest things that I hear all the time is, oh, your wife, she has these incredible genetics. She just, you know, always looked like that. Believe it or not, she had never touched a weight. She didn't play athletics in high school. She was just your regular, average American woman. She worked, she, after work, hung out. She was just a regular person.
I ate anything that I wanted to eat. I never really worried about calories. I never read labels. I just picked up whatever food I felt like eating and ate it. And that's what I think most people do. But it's not strange to actually pick up an actual item and look at the contents. Look at how it's made up, how much sodium is in it, how much calories is in it, how much protein grams, how many carb grams. These are things that it's not obsessing over it. It's just understanding what you're putting into your body. Your body is something that's very important, that you actually figure out what you're putting in, and it will allow you to be able to, with time, not have to actually read labels anymore, but just understand how many calories are in items and moderate your food to a certain extent.
Alexis loves for me to dig into these old pictures because she just loves for everyone to see the before picture of her, because her memory sometimes gets a little foggy. So every
you wouldn't
now
want to
and
forget
then,
this as well.
when the IFBB Figure Pro's head gets a little too big, I have to remind her about her humble beginnings. So this is Alexis before she became
the IFBB Pro that she is today.
Figure Pro that she is today. This is her having a wonderful time at the beach. It looked like she probably just had a wonderful meal, but she looks nice and full. So this is her before, and this is her first competition, actually, which was the Orange County show. And this is the after. This is the picture she likes me to think is how she always looked. That's the after. And believe it or not, they actually said she was a little on the lean side, a little too muscular, a little too lean. So
this was the Orange County Classic in California show. And it was in 2003, April of 2003. I placed third and tall, and I was very excited. My first show, and you know, it's something that I use to motivate myself to take myself to the next level. I was eating healthy food. Our food business started in 2000, so I had been eating healthy food for 3 years, and I eat our food. This is what I eat every day, off season, on season. I eat gourmet fitness food. And this type of food, even when I go out, I try to make the smart choices. So I think we all can do that. We can all honestly lose weight, build muscle, and actually live a healthy lifestyle. And that's what this is about, living a healthy lifestyle and not feeling like it's a fad diet. It's actually just changing how we feel and how we look at food, and making it what we want.
Now, I know you notice how long she held up the after picture. The before picture wasn't very long. By the way, this is our own chef, Tanya, in case you're wondering. She's not the thing in the background, which happens to be a hippo. She's right here in the front.
We're not supposed to show that.
And she also loves me to show this. And believe it or not, she started out as one of my clients that I actually trained in the gym, and later on became my chef. So she actually came a long way. She lost over 100 pounds, and like I said, a lot of it had to do with exercise, but a lot of it had to do with the food that she was eating. So we're not just people who just make food and then you guys out there are guinea pigs. We actually are customers. We eat our own food. So it's very important that you understand that it must taste good. Otherwise, you cannot get somebody to eat healthy for the rest of their life if you can't figure out a way to make it taste good. So let's go back to Tanya. So what we have right here is good old-fashioned Prego pasta sauce. You can also go to your local health food store and get healthier versions of this. I'm just using regular old store brands for a lot of this stuff. And if you look on the back, the sodium isn't that bad. The sodium on this per half a cup is about 500 milligrams, so I use a lot less. You can also look at the carbs. Carbs are low, so you can, play around with things. Just read the labels, and I use an amount just low enough where you get a little flavor without getting all the bad stuff. So what she did is she took the eggs, and look that up for me, Tanya. She has them in a skillet. She sprayed the skillet with Pam, and I use regular Pam, and I use Pam with olive oil, and I love Pam, by the way. And basically what she's doing is she's basically making an omelet. So you just kind of you cook it at a relatively low flame, kind of moderate, medium heat. And you just kind of let it heat up and kind of spread out. Because what's going to happen is once that solidifies, she's going to take her sauteed peppers, which are done. She only sautés these peppers and, well, we don't have mushrooms this time, but sausage, and maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes.
Because you want to keep the crispness of all these vegetables, so you don't have to overcook it. So always keep that in mind. This is something, once again, that is quick and easy. We're making a Sicilian omelet, and once the eggs are actually cooked, we're just gonna put the actual vegetables inside, and there you have it. You have a Sicilian omelet. Very easy. We also have the oatmeal that is our side and is high in fiber, and is something that is actually a staple in the bodybuilding community, as we all know. It's something we eat off-season, on-season, contest day. We have people eating oatmeal. Dry oatmeal, this is a little bit better, a lot more flavorful, and a lot juicier than the dry oatmeal that we have.
Now watch what she's about to do. This is a trick. Now, what she did is she took a bigger skillet, she sprayed it with Pam. I'm gonna spray the top of that with Pam. And what she's gonna do is she's gonna flip that. That's her homemade omelet maker, and she just flipped it in the slightly larger skillet. That's how you don't have to shake it around and flip it like they do on those fancy chef shows. You know, I'm a hack. We're all, you know, just people who, just like you, have been in this. I've been doing this for 20 years. You know, they're new to this a little bit, and that shows you that someone with no experience and no degree and no long-term background is necessary. You could just be a regular old person off the street, and within a very short period of time, learn how to cook healthy, and that's all your meals. That's cooking for your whole family. So you saw that little trick. Try that at home. If you get grease on yourself, don't blame me. But just try all the stuff and just take your time. Don't turn it up too high. Also, she has a hairnet on. If you have long hair, wear a hairnet. Use good, clean kitchen habits. I don't have my apron on. Normally I'm wearing an apron. Normally we have gloves on. Normally, you know, if we sneeze away, we wash our hands. You want to have a clean kitchen. Normally we use a commercial kitchen and it's, you know, inspected. But when you're in your own kitchen, you can use the same codes of health and standards that we do in our kitchen. You really want to make sure that you do that, because you don't want to eat all this healthy food and then contaminate it by not using proper health code procedures. Okay, so very important that you do that.
So once again, eating healthy is something that is really simple to do and lots of fun. Something you can do with your family and friends, and just it's something that is something simple, and it's something that you can make part of your life and live a healthy lifestyle. And it's something that is actually very important that we all do. We're going to start with the oatmeal now. Now the oatmeal is something that we love to eat, and we have a lot of different versions of the oatmeal. We're preparing today actually apple banana oatmeal,
which is my favorite.
Yeah, actually it is, and I love the blueberry. But there's a lot of flavors, and you can actually do anything you like. We have about 9 different flavors.
Yeah, we have 9 different flavors. You never would think that there's 9 flavors of oatmeal.
But there is.
But there is, and just simple things. There's some basic things that we always do with our oatmeal. And in the back, it's just boiling water. That's the first thing. If you can boil water, you can make oatmeal. The next thing, it depends what you want. Now, here's our, we have it prepackaged for you. But normally we buy our oatmeal in bulk. Big, giant, 100-pound things of oatmeal for you, and then we transfer it in smaller things. What you're gonna do is probably take 1 cup or half a cup of oatmeal, depending upon how many people you're making it for. And you're gonna go to a health food store. Don't just automatically go and buy Quaker Oats. I like Arrowhead Meals. There's a couple of companies that make it, but they're coarse rolled oats, and you have to look for coarse rolled oats, not the quick oats, because they have a different taste. The coarse oats don't get mushy. They have that chewy, hearty taste to them, and that's why, one of the reasons why our oatmeal tastes so good. Well, you'll find out some more of our tricks later on. But that's the most important thing, is making sure you get the right oats, because this is something that you're going to be eating every day, and I don't want you to get tired of it, because if you change the flavor, it actually is something you'll look forward to eating every day.
Yeah, oatmeal, the quick oats or the prepackaged oats, those instant oats, they're very mushy and easy to make, but this is just going to take you just a few more minutes, about 5-7 more minutes.
Now, what I want to do is, what she basically did is, when the omelet was ready, she just poured all the pepper in the middle of it and then just flipped it over like that. So basically, when it's ready, you just take everything, pour it right on in, and then fold it over. And it's very, very simple to do. That's exactly what it's going to look like. You can even, if you want to, you can add, and listen to what I said, non-fat cheddar or mozzarella cheese. And there are stores that sell that even pre-packaged. You can buy a little package and it's already shredded for you, and you can sprinkle that in it after you put it in, it'll melt a little bit. And that's if you love cheese.
And it increases the protein content once again.
All of these things, yeah, the only bad thing about cheese is it is a little high in sodium, so this is something that I would only recommend during the off season. I'm not a big dairy fan, but there are times when you have to eat things that do have dairy in it, like non-fat yogurt, non-fat cottage cheese. And I use those things to cook with on occasion, but mainly for off-season, especially if you're a competitor. Everybody else isn't going to worry about holding water and things like that unless you're doing a competition or unless you have some health-related issue. So, go ahead, finish what you were saying, Alexis.
So what we have here is we're using fresh apples and fresh bananas for the oatmeal, and it's something that may take a little bit longer to prepare, but the taste is just unbeatable in reality. So a few more minutes, and before you know it, you have something that you can actually eat every day, and it's it's fresh, and it's has high in fiber
now,
and
do you see how she's
potassium.
cutting that? You want to cut it in little small pieces without cutting off your finger. Now, Tanya still has, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 of her fingers. And so we want to keep them, so be really careful when you're doing this, and absolutely positively use a sharp knife. Otherwise it slips and it will cut your finger off. And I don't want that on my conscience. So definitely cut it, and I'm going to grab a little piece so you can see. Little small little pieces like that. Even when I cut it even smaller. I like them really bite-sized. So that's how you're cutting the apples. You're gonna, oops, sorry honey. You're gonna use 1 whole apple split between 2 people. So a half an apple per person. And the other thing, which is right next to it, is a banana. Just a regular old banana, nothing special. Fresh fruit, as much fresh fruit as you can get. And I'm gonna let her continue to eat, cut that while Alexis clears everything. The water is boiling in the background. She turned it down once it was at a boil, sprayed a little more pound in that. As you can tell, I love pound. And then she added the oats. And the big question when you make oatmeal is, especially if you start making it on a regular basis, how thick do I make it? Well, initially, you want to get it just thick enough where the oats and the water are melded together. In other words, the water shouldn't be separated. So you want to boil it until when you're stirring it, it has some kind of thick consistency, not too thick, but just thick enough where you can stir it still, because you're going to have to add fruit to it and a few other things. So you don't want it too thick and you don't want it too thin, just in between. So what we're going to do is, let's see if I can come back here and grab this. I might have to have time to do that. But if I can show you, she is probably would add a little more oats to this, so you can see, a little too thin. That's a little too much water, so it should be thicker than that, probably just a little bit thicker. So she'll probably add, or if you're making it at home, you'd add a little more oatmeal. But that gives you an idea of what we're talking about. And right now, she has the flame so low, she's just letting it sit while she does that, because you don't want to overcook it. It's better to undercook the oats than overcook the oats. So she turned it down while she's doing this, and
Gives me more time.
gives her more time. And time is everything when you're doing this.
And why do you believe that, this is such a great breakfast? Being with, we have egg white omelets, with vegetables inside, we have the fruits inside the oatmeal. Why do you think this is such a great, it's such a staple in the bodybuilding community, but why is it great for just the ordinary person?
Well, now we get to the science behind this. I'm trying to talk about things in layman's terms, but let's talk about the science behind food and things like that. Why is it so important that I put an apple in the oatmeal? An apple has apple pectin, which actually makes you feel full. It also has very high fiber. The sugar in an apple has a low glycemic index rating, which means when you eat, let's say an apple, or you even drink apple juice, your blood sugar level does not go shooting through the roof and then crash. The sugar does not affect your body the same way as other sugars, like refined white sugar. You take a tablespoon of regular sugar, what happens is your body reacts to that by dumping insulin in your bloodstream, which makes you feel tired later. That's why you get those peaks and goes up and down. Later on,
that.
No, and what you're gonna do is eventually give yourself diabetes, and that's why that's so bad. You're putting a strain on your pancreas. You take the oatmeal, which is high in fiber. You take the apple, which is high in fiber. You take the banana, which is high in potassium and also relatively high in sugar. Healthy for you, however, for some people, a little too sugary, but it doesn't matter, because when you combine a banana, which is also fruit sugar, fructose, but it has a higher glycemic index rating, but when you combine it with all that fiber, it's released in your system slow. So although I'm taking a banana and mixing it with the apple and mixing it with the oatmeal, and then when I get to sweetening it, I'm going to use a little bit of fructose, actual fruit sugar, to sweeten it with a little bit of equal and a little bit of honey. Which you can find at your health food store. Yeah, you find fructose at your local health food store. You probably will not find it at a regular store. You're going to actually have to go to a health food store, which is a good thing. I want to get everybody in the habit of going to a health food store because that's probably where you're going to find your rolled oats. So when you mix all those things together, when you eat them, you're gonna get less, especially when you're eating it with a heavy protein like an omelet. It's gonna affect your blood sugar level less. So you're gonna feel differently when you eat that combination than if you eat Snickers bar. So there is a science behind everything, and there is a reason why I use equal and a little bit of fructose and a little bit of honey, because I'm trying to actually manipulate your blood sugar levels in such a way where I do raise it a little bit, but at a very slow rate, and then it levels off. So you don't get that up and then that crash that you do sometimes when you eat certain things in the morning, like coffee and donuts. You wake up and then you crash.
And sugar and caffeine and more sugar and fat, which is, that's why you may feel great for just a short period of time, and all of a sudden you just dip down, and then you don't understand why. It has a lot to do with the makeup of the food that you're eating. So that is why fresh food and fresh vegetables and fresh apples and fresh fruits and vegetables and everything being cooked is something that we should actually try to do. I know it's something that may take the time, as you see, but it's something that is worth it.
Now, it boiled out, so some of the water actually steamed out. So now it's a little thicker, it's a little closer to how it should look. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the apples, we're gonna take the bananas, and we're actually gonna add it to this. Now, we're also gonna take a little bit of equal. Before I put this in, I wanna sweeten it, because I wanna sweeten this a little bit without having it all over the fruit. So show them what you're gonna do in terms of sweetening this oatmeal. So just gonna use a little bit of fructose, just enough to give it a little flavor so it's not so bland. And this is the part that separates our healthy food service with a lot of other food services, is the fact that we actually do go out of our way to try to make it taste like mainstream food. So she added just a little bit of fructose, 2 of those, two tablespoons, and that's it. And then she's gonna add a little bit of equal.
Thank you.
Here you go. And then a little bit of honey. If I can find the honey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right behind us.
Where's the honey?
There you go.
All right. And then she'll add a little bit of honey. So depending upon, remember, this is enough for 2 or 3 people. So depending upon the number of people you're cooking for, will determine how much. You probably only put one packet of equal. Now before we put all this in, here is our secret ingredient. We put a little of vanilla extract in our oatmeal. Now our vanilla extract we get from another country. So it's gonna be very hard for you to duplicate it. That's my secret. What country I get that from is for me to know and you to find out. But you can go to your local grocery store and get regular old-fashioned vanilla extract. So she's putting probably about probably half a tablespoon of honey in that. Okay, and you're gonna adjust it for how sweet you like things. Some people are gonna put a little more, some people are gonna put a little less. That's the part you have to experiment with. Some people won't put any honey in it. Some people will just use equal. So you experiment around what tastes best for you in terms of those 3 sweeteners: equal, honey, and fructose. And that's spelled F-R-U-C-T-O-S-E, fructose. And those are the 3 sweeteners that we manipulate, and that's what you want to use. So she mixes it around. Here, turn it a little bit so they can see. It looks like that. See, it's getting thicker.
And it's nice and juicy.
And it's juicy. So looks good. Let's see. Last but not least, we add the fruit.
Smells good. Back to the senses.
We're adding the fruit last, simply so it stays crisp. It has that fresh fruit taste. You don't want to put it in first because then the fruit gets overcooked and it gets all mushy. So you put it in last so it has a fresh taste.
And it's not even on the stove anymore. The oatmeal's cooked, and that's what you want it to cook. But at this point, it's still hot, and you mix in the fruit and make sure it's well mixed. But the fruit, it doesn't have to be cooked. We don't cook fruit, so therefore it's mixed at the very, very end with enough sweetener and enough fruit for your preference. And that is apple banana oatmeal.
And there you have it. So we've cooked 2 things. We've cooked the Sicilian omelet. We've made the apple banana oatmeal. You take the apple banana oatmeal, you take about the equivalent of either 1 cup or a half a cup. You got it next to your Sicilian omelet, and there you have it. So who's gonna do the honors Will it be you? The chef gets to taste it first.
Why not?
Why not?
So let's grab a fork. So you have everything but a fork. We'll open this up. Let's do the honors. And Chef Tanya. Oh, she's going. I knew she was going to. They
Gotta go for that omelet.
Right for the protein. These two always go for the protein first. I would probably go for the oatmeal first.
You gotta get that protein then. That's very important.
That's why they have them. Let me see a muscle. Let me see. You two. Come on, give me a muscle. Give me a muscle.
not that bad, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not ready for the Olympia stage in bodybuilding, but it's a good start.
I hope you enjoyed your time in the kitchen, and remember to check out that website. It's gourmetfitnessfood.com. And from all of us at The Fit Show, I'm Alexis Ellis.
And I'm David Ellis.
I'm Tanya Dover.
Thanks for watching.
That wraps up another episode of The Fit Show. Tune in next week for more leg conditioning exercises from Kim and Laurie, as well as more in the kitchen with David and Alexis. Until then, I'm your host, Jeff Etherson, sitting in for Hannah Gordon. Thanks for watching.